welcome back to another episode of Over the Glass. I am your host, Jay.
I am Nessa, the other host. Today we have I've been trying to say your name and I don't want to get it wrong, and I'm gonna guess it's Illkya.
Yes, you got it. Ilkya, yeah.
Yes.
You said it with a Latino accent like my mom, so that's even better.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know, Illkya here did the Hispanic Heritage logo for the New Jersey Devils this year. And so could you give us a little introduction, how you identify, how you got into hockey?
Yeah, so I identify as Latina. I so basically this project was an introduction to hockey for me. I'll be honest, I was not like a big fan. Not that I was against hockey or anything. I just feel like in general I'm not a big sports person. But it definitely attracted me, just like the setting on the ice. And honestly, I feel like it's one of the bravest sports that you could be in. And actually, I got invited to the game as a result of the project. And that was really awesome. I really enjoyed it, and just the environment, the speed of the game, it was just really exhilarating. So it was awesome, and I hope to go to more hockey games.
So was that game that you were invited to your very first?
Yes.
Wow.
So
Did they win?
They did win. Yeah, it was 1-0. They were against the Colorado Avalanche.
Defending champs.
Can you walk us through how this opportunity came about?
Yeah. So I was just on Facebook casually. I don't really go on there that much. But I think I saw a friend post about the opportunity. I think they reposted it from the New Jersey Council of the Arts page. So I saw that, and it just looked interesting to me for some reason. I was like, I read the information, and they had different theme nights, of course. So I was really intrigued to learn that they have, different nights dedicated to different cultures, like Lunar New Year, Black History Month. They have a Pride theme night as well, and Hispanic Heritage. So naturally, that just stood out to me, and I was like, why not take a chance? And it seemed like a really great opportunity to like be able to design, the whole jersey itself, the front crest, the shoulder patches, the back, the nameplate. And, I actually thought my submission got lost, like in transit, to be honest, in electronic purgatory or whatever. But then, about a week later, I got an email back from the director of design, and he said he really liked my work and if I would be interested in doing the Hispanic Heritage jersey. And I was like, yeah, of course.
So they had folks submit was it like a draft, or did you have to, is what you had on the jersey what you submitted initially?
No, that's a concept I developed myself after I got accepted, and I kind of worked a bit with one of their freelance designers just to refine it a bit to, I guess, the format that's best suited, for jerseys, because it has to be certain visibility, a certain largeness on top of the jersey. But the application process, it was very simple. It was just filling out my name, where I live, I guess what it would mean to me to be part of creating the jersey, like why it would be significant to me, and sending them some samples of my current work and past work to kind of get a gist of what my style is like.
Can you kind of just describe how you came about with the logo, I guess, or like what it represents, I don't know, what's
Mm-hmm.
the word, symbolism?
Yeah, so the front crest, so it's the New Jersey Devils logo, and in the back is kind of this wavy sun, like the waves. The rays of the sun are wavy. And I did some research both about Latin America and Hispanic America. As those places in Latin America, they're, kind of, what we know as their current day names because of colonization. So, there's actually a flag of Hispanic America that has that sun with the waves, and I think it's kind of inspired by Inti. It's a sun god that comes from Aztec culture, I believe, um, from Mexico. And I was really inspired by that because there's also other countries in Latin America that share that as well. And I really think that it speaks to us, like to the warmth that we as a Latinx community have within us, the warmth, the fire to be able to overcome all kinds of obstacles. And I want it to be empowering as well.
That's cute. I really like that. I really like also that you had other countries, I guess, other Latin American countries in mind, because I feel like a lot of times when teams do Hispanic heritage, they heavily focus on Mexican culture,
Mm-hmm.
which is fine, they're part of it, but they're not the only country, and it's a little frustrating to see, for me anyway, as someone who's not Mexican. Like, there are other of us that exist.
Of course, definitely. I mean, I can totally relate to that because I come from Central American background, so sometimes I think that the things that make us us are kind of a bit more obscure. Um, so, even the color choices on the jersey, I really like to choose some of the pinks and the purples, because orchids are a really big flower in Latin America too. There's different species of orchids that are prevalent, like in the islands and some in Honduras as well, which is half of where I'm from. That's where my mom is from.
So, since you mentioned that this was your first kind of introduction to the sport of hockey and you don't really have much of a sports following, have you been keeping up with the Devils since then?
Yeah, of course. I follow them on all the social media now. um, Yeah, and I see they're doing really great like these days. I think they're like on the top tier in the rankings currently. That's what I know. You can correct me if I'm wrong.
You're definitely coming in at a good time because they've been in a rebuild process, and over the last couple of years, they've gotten a lot of like high draft picks. You have um, Jack Hughes. They recently got his brother out of the first round as well. They have Jesper Bratt. They traded for Dougie Hamilton. So you have a lot of like good young
Young talent.
guys that have a lot of the ceiling is very high for them. And like I think right now, unfortunately, they're having some goaltender problems. They had them early. Well, they had it later last year where their goalies were going down, so that doesn't usually help the team when you're kind of not really having that reliability on the back end. But even still, with those problems right now, they're still a very exciting team. So it's kind of cool to see that happening. Unfortunately, the East is very competitive. From an outsider perspective looking in, it looks like the Devils have like a good thing going right now. So you're definitely in for some good hockey, I think.
I'm excited to see how it goes. Definitely have to
It,
go to another one for sure.
Do you happen to have a favorite player yet?
Not exactly. They're all good. I think Miles Davis name and Siegenthaler, I like them. Oh my gosh, did I say Miles Davis? Oh my gosh. I
oh
meant
no,
Miles
what is
Wood.
it?
My bad. I was thinking I
Oh,
didn't
okay.
memorize his name. Oh my goodness.
No worries.
Yeah, Miles Wood, of course. But
Cool, cool.
It's
can
okay,
you
you're a
edit
noob.
that
We'll
out,
give you a
please?
pass.
All good.
Yeah, imagine him on the ice. That would be interesting.
So I was obviously really excited to find out that you were half Salvadorian because I am not half, but I am Salvi too. Look at my shirt.
Oh, you see it? Oh my gosh, you're gonna have to tell me where you got that so I can get it too.
I will try to remember and send you a link. um, so I'm kind of curious because it's not something I think about. Is there like a big Salvadorian community out where you are?
So currently I'm in Philly as well. I go
Oh,
visit in South Jersey a lot too. My family still lives there. Here in Philly, I'm not exactly sure. I have one friend who's Cuban and half Salvadorian, but I haven't really met too many here in Philly. I think primarily the demographic is more Puerto Rican and Mexican. Yeah, and I have a friend who's Dominican too, and those two friends, the Cuban, Salvadorian, and Dominican, we actually are all from South Jersey, and we ended up in Philly. And we kind of started as a art community there, and then came here, and it just like panned out that way. So it was really interesting. But it would be great to hopefully have more Salvies here. That would be awesome.
for sure. I know that DC has a pretty big community out there. Like my older sibling lives out there, and they. I actually saw an article somewhere that their baseball team I think sells like pupusas at the stadium, and I
What?
was like, what?
In
That's so
DC?
wild.
Oh, the
Yeah,
DC,
wild concept and
this is the Nationals.
Wow.
wild concept. I'd
But
love that.
where are you two located? If you can reiterate that for me.
We're in the Bay Area, so Jay's in San Jose, exactly where the Sharks are. I'm a little bit north of that. I live a little bit like East Bay, northern part. So I'm a little bit like I'm an hour away from San Jose. So
Oh, awesome. But there's definitely lots of Salvies over there in the West Coast, right?
oh, for sure,
Yeah,
specifically LA and San Francisco. But yeah, I can get my pupusa fix if my mom's not in the mood to make some.
that's awesome. I really definitely want to make my way over to the West Coast at some point. So maybe we can meet up for a cafecito or something.
Yes. Or
And
maybe even like a hockey game when the Devils are in town.
yeah.
What's your favorite Salvi food or cultural significant tradition?
Um, let's see. Well, I don't know, to be honest. I feel like my palate for Salvadoran food isn't really expansive. We're really basic at my household, like at my family house. We just eat like beans, frijoles, tortillas. From my mom's side, because she's Honduran, we have baleadas. Um, Definitely
What are
pupusas.
those?
Baleadas, they're made with a giant flour tortilla. You have refried beans on top of them. And that's basically the simple version. And then you have like the more complex version where it's those two things, and then you put scrambled eggs and some cheese on top. Um, so I guess you could say it's similar to a burrito, but not really. You can kind of eat it folded in half. So it's like usually like a breakfast, lunch food, or anytime
Hmm.
food. I definitely think that I should dig deeper in the culinary side of things because I'm sure there's more recipes than pupusas. I guess tradition wise, I don't know. I don't know if this is exclusive to my culture, but I guess um, for Christmas on Noche Buena, because we celebrate Christmas Eve, we stay up till midnight and then we open the presents. So going from Christmas Eve into Christmas Day. And I always thought that was really fun.
That's I love Christmas. So I always joked around with my friends growing up. I get two Christmases because I celebrate the 24.
Yeah.
But I think when I was little, it was I could never make the connection. Your parents still try to pass off the whole Santa thing, that the lie. And I'm like, how does Santa get his presents here without us noticing if we're awake at midnight? It never clicked.
Hmm.
It's just silly. But yeah, that was going to be another question I wanted to ask you is how you celebrate the holidays and stuff.
I was just trying to think of how Santa was handled in my household, and I don't know. Like, I don't even. I think I learned more about Santa at school than I did at home. Holidays were very Americanized in my household. I'd say, if anything, the thing that stuck out the most was, Chinese New Year,
Mm.
and even though we celebrated in a more American style, the food on the table was different. Like, every holiday, regardless of what it is, you would always find noodles on the table because of the whole, like, you eat noodles for longevity and stuff. So it doesn't matter what holiday it is. It's like Thanksgiving, there's still noodles on the table. Like, it's just so random. So holidays didn't really, outside of New Year's, wasn't really like, oh, this is specifically like Asian related, and then versus American related, it was all just kind of like blended in there. And it was only when I had folks come over, or like we would talk about it with my friends, is when I would realize, oh, that's different. You guys don't have noodles at your table too. So
No, my favorite holiday food is pan con pavo, which is like a turkey sandwich, Salvadorian turkey sandwich, and it's just like the sauce makes it like the way that the turkey is cooked and stuff. Oh my god, it's so good. My mom just made some for Thanksgiving. It was amazing. So good. I don't know
Sounds
if you've had
good.
it.
No, I
Yeah.
haven't personally, no.
Oh
My
my god.
mom usually likes making shrimp cocktail for Thanksgiving too. It's a big thing for her. Um, and I think for Thanksgiving or Christmas, she likes to make flan sometimes too, and I love flan.
mm,
It's so good.
yeah, Filipino culture definitely has that influence from being colonized, because flan is in our cuisine as well, and that was one of my favorites growing up. And probably now I can't eat as much as I did before. But it was like, when it's on the table, you want to eat like the whole thing, and it's probably not a good idea.
Do you know they make a choco flan, which is like a half chocolate cake and the flan baked on top?
Oh
I
my
think I've heard
god.
of that, but I've never tried it.
It's pretty good. I had to try it.
Oh, well,
Okay.
Filipino food is amazing, by the way.
Oh my god, it's so good.
There's a new Filipino restaurant opening up in Philly. If you ever come here, I'll take you there. It's so
It's
good.
on my to-do list, and then on top of that, going to a Flyers game.
Awesome. Yeah, I still have to go to a Flyers game too. Haven't made it out to one yet.
Are you closer to where they are at right now than New
Yeah.
Jersey?
Yeah.
Okay.
Jersey's like a 58-minute drive, hour.
It's so
And
close.
yeah, it's just a subway ride away to get to the hockey stadium. So it's pretty convenient.
So are you in Philly for work or school?
Yeah, I was going to school here, and I would always go home in the summers, like my first 2 years of going to school. And then, I was able to afford rent here on my own, so I decided to live here. I still like frequent back and forth between here and home just to visit family and everything. But yeah.
Yeah, it's wild to me how close all the states are on the east. Like an hour and you're in a different state. Whereas here I drive an hour south and I'm in San Jose. An hour north, I'm in Sacramento. I'm still in California.
Yeah, I can't believe it. It's so expansive over there. It's pretty big.
Mm. Have you visited El Salvador or Honduras?
I did. So the first time I went, I think I was like three or something. Obviously, I don't remember that. But I did go in the summer of 2018. I went in July and I stayed there for about 3 weeks. My grandma has a house in Honduras, and I stayed with her, and it was really nice. And then visited El Salvador for a few days as well, and I was able to visit my family that I never really got to know, and just see everything, like see where my parents came from. And I really feel like as an adult, I was able to embrace it more and appreciate it more. And I definitely
For
do want to
sure.
go back again. because I feel like the trip was a little bit dictated of like what my family wanted to do and like seeing the relatives versus being a bit more exploratory. Of course, it was fun, but the next trip I just kind of want to have free reign.
Yeah. Right now, I haven't gone for like 16 years. My first trip to El Salvador, I was 4, so barely remember that trip as well.
Hmm.
And then I went again when I was 14. And the thing that made the most impression on me was the food. Like, you can have any kind of salvi food out here, any restaurant, and it's good. But the pupusas out there are like indescribable. I don't know. They are so good, and I don't know if it's the way they make them because they use a comal, which is like a, I don't know
Hmm.
how to describe this in
It's like
English,
a flat
but it's
top,
just,
right?
yeah,
Sort of.
but it's like made of a certain material. I think
Hmm.
like clay,
Oh,
and
okay.
so it like gets all the flavor from the. I don't know. It's so good though. Y'all need to go and try them.
Yeah, now that you brought that up, I do remember I went to like a family friend's house or like cousin of the family, and she made us pupusas by hand, and she like whipped them out like so fast, and they were so good. And I was like, oh my goodness, I think it was like mixtas and ones that were just cheese, and some had like loroco on them.
Hmm.
It just feels like that trip was so far away, and I do want to go again because my sister wasn't able to go at that time, and she's younger than me, and I really think it's something she should do as well.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I really want to get back at some point, and it's like it's improving now. It's not like overrun by gang members anymore, so it'll be more enjoyable.
I definitely want to go to the beaches too because I did go to El Tunco. If you're familiar, it's kind of like the more surf spot. A lot
Mm.
of like surf enthusiasts love to go there because the waves are pretty good from what I've read and heard. And yeah, it would be fun to surf. I kind of am not the best swimmer, so I would have to brush up on that too. Um, yeah, it would be fun. It was like really nice.
I think actually that's where they actually hold like world surf competitions there, which is crazy to me.
Yeah, it's definitely a good under the radar. And I feel like some things that I've seen that are a bit crazy because, El Salvador has volcanoes and stuff. They're like, it's the Hawaii of Central America or something. And I'm like,
There's so many volcanoes, yeah.
interesting. And hiking at the volcanoes would be cool
Yeah, that sounds intense.
too.
I don't think they're active.
I mean, I recently saw last week that there was an active volcano in Hawaii that
Oh,
erupted. I don't know if y'all saw
Hawaii.
that, but
No, I don't think I did.
yeah, I
That's
forgot
scary.
the
Yeah,
name,
then.
but or where it was, but I definitely saw it on NPR. So,
Despite not being within hockey for terribly long, do you have any perspectives on how hockey or sports in general can be more inclusive to the Salvi community or other underrepresented communities?
are you asking kind of from more of a corporate standpoint of like what like the NHL could do or teams could do or just hockey culture in general?
I feel like they're
All of the
all
above.
kind of intertwined.
Okay.
I mean, definitely coming from what we've seen over the years, corporations can, hold all of these special events and things like that, but if they do that and then in the next side of it, they do something that contradicts being inclusive to those communities, that's where hockey culture comes into play, where the environment is not being evolved to allow that inclusion to flourish, or it more ends up being very performative than actually walking the walk.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess from a like a professional point of view, I'm really not sure. Maybe recruiters could, they could be more expansive. Maybe go to places or reach places that might not be thought of, be open to taking in people that don't quite look like the usual hockey player. um, just seeing people for their talents. And of course, identity makes up a part of it. But, there's people that look like us that are into hockey. And I'm sure there's guys that, are in the Latin community that love hockey too. And, I learned that the New Jersey Devils, they had a Latino hockey player, Scott Gomez, before as part of the team. And I believe he comes from a Mexican background. And he grew up briefly in California and then moved to Alaska after that. So that was really interesting to me. Yeah, I just really think being open and being able to change, being wholehearted to listen to all kinds of perspectives and people that are really interested in this. Because even before this, when you first reached out to me, I listened to the podcast from the person you interviewed in Texas, and that really called out to me as well. It resonated with me, and a lot of people, I feel like they assume that Latino people only stick to like Latino things like hockey's hot, like it's not spicy, it's not like winter is not associated with us, but like there's places in the South that have hockey teams. So, yeah, I just think that being open to that and not assuming things, not assuming because people are of a certain ethnicity or whatever that they're not interested or capable of doing something. And for the
Yeah.
groundwork, I guess, like what y'all are doing, just making it known that there are people like us that are interested in hockey and having this platform and, kind of digging deep and seeing where we align, how you found me and now I'm here and I'm talking about this and it's great, and being able to connect to other people. Because it's crazy on Twitter. I found out like I got some followers from Spain that are really involved with the NHL, and I'm like, you're all the way over there in Europe, and you're still following like American hockey, which I think is really cool.
We have a couple of friends out in Spain that we like constantly talk to about games and stuff. We actually had one on our podcast last week. His name's Emmett. He is a Leafs fan, poor thing. But, I don't know how much you keep up with any other teams, but the Leafs are an interesting team to follow.
Where are they from?
Toronto.
Toronto. Okay, the Leafs. Yeah.
So they have a stacked team, a lot of good players. They usually have a really good regular season, but they can't ever get past the first round in the playoffs, and everyone makes fun of the fans for it.
Oh. Was that a good answer?
Oh, no, that was a
yeah.
great answer.
Oh, thank you.
Like, you've only been following hockey for, 2 months, and you're already picking up on this stuff, so...
People like to say, oh, keep politics out of sports, but when it's not, that's just life, and sports is part of life, and people need to see themselves represented. Sports should not be gatekeep because sport is for everybody, and so I feel like you've only been within the sport for such a small time, yet as Nessa pointed out, you've already kind of, homed in on those sort of things, and it's not so different than in everyday life where we're constantly having to make space for ourselves, and you hope that people within places of privilege would help you out with that, but sometimes it's like it's good intended, but because they don't live with it every day, it's easy to kind of push it aside, to shelve it, or feel like you've done a lot when really it's just like you've done the bare minimum. And like as you mentioned with Nate, the episode that you watched or listened to with him, it's like, I don't know if you could tell we were getting really frustrated at certain points, because it's like we're preaching to the choir. This is not new to us. And, if folks who don't live that experience, if that is surprising to them, it's like, yes, we want you to wake up. We want you to hear these things. We want you to take it seriously. Because, like with him, it's like he could not find a place or a community down in South Texas um, to allow him to engage in a sport that he loves so much. And then finally, he's like, you know what? We just need to do it ourselves. And it's like, did we wake up one day and be inspired to do that? No, it comes from years and years of just trying and hoping and waiting for that to happen, and then it doesn't. So you just gotta end up putting your foot forward. And I mean, from a cultural standpoint, like, I know from my background, and I've seen it with my friends who I identify as within the Hispanic Latin community, we always get kind of told that, oh, we're such hard workers. It's like, yeah, because we have to constantly be paving this path for ourselves, because everyone else around us who doesn't live that experience is either gatekeeping or unwilling to help us. And I will step back down from my soapbox now.
I definitely hear what you're saying. And I think while you were saying that, I kind of brought up this idea in my mind that I kind of observed with a friend when we went to a baseball game recently. And it was actually one of my first baseball games last year, and we were watching the Phillies. Um, there's a lot of, Latino baseball players, and I was just like a bit wowed by how many there were, and just the idea of like, are these people really seen? Or is it just like tokenization through talent? Of course, I know the players get to choose out of their own volition, and this is probably they were dedicated, like something that they were attracted to since they were younger, like living wherever they came from. Is that something that resonates with you, or that you have thoughts about in regards to hockey or just sports in general, and how that kind of can be treated better, or maybe more transparent?
In hockey, I feel baseball is it's interesting because there are so many Latin players, a lot of like specifically like Dominican Republic, some Mexicans, whatever, and I feel like teams do acknowledge that. They'll be like, oh, they're very proud of where they come from. They have like translators for players who don't speak English very well. Whereas in hockey, it's like they don't highlight the fact that people come from different places or different backgrounds. They don't celebrate it in any way unless it's a heritage night of some
Hmm.
sort. And even then, it's not like highlighting the player, it's just the community, which I mean, I get, but it's also, like, it sucks. Like right now, the Sharks have a player who's half Mexican, but it doesn't seem like he celebrates that part of him. Like he doesn't highlight the fact, like, hey, I'm half Mexican. Like, these are the things that I do. And I don't know whether it's because that's how hockey, what's the word? Like how he was influenced by hockey, how it's don't make it about yourself, make it about the team, or if that's just how he was brought up. Like he didn't have, like he was, for lack of a better word, whitewashed. I don't know. Like he just wasn't brought up with those traditions and like that part of the culture. It's hard to say where, but then you see someone like Jason Robertson, who is Filipino, and he seems to be very proud of it. Like he actually like, oh yeah, I'm Filipino. And he'll like any fan who's also Filipino comes up to him and they're like, yeah, like I want to be just like you when I grow up or whatever. And he's like super sweet in the interactions. Like, yeah, like I hope that for you. Like it seems like he would want to grow the sport. So that's rare to see in hockey, I feel.
Yeah, I guess now I'm thinking about, do you think that maybe this maybe self-disclosure of identity, because obviously a lot of these notable players have like their social media accounts and they can say a bit more than, what their team accounts say, or like the general hockey NHL account like highlights about them. Um, do you think that sometimes people don't want to like I guess put out too much that they are this ethnicity or whatever, because then they become like the face, like the poster boy, poster girl, poster whatever, and then they kind of get attributed always to just your identity, like the amazing Mexican hockey player, or the amazing, it's not just like the hockey player, So I think it's always this dichotomy, and even as an artist, it's something I talk about with my friends, because sometimes I think that it can be like a double-edged sword, because then you're expected to act a certain way, kind of performative, or express your art in a certain way, or like your art should feature these kinds of things versus what you want it to be for you. If that makes sense.
It could be, but even like take Austin Matthews for example. He is also half Mexican, and he talks about it. He's like, "Yeah, my mom is half Mexican." He celebrates it. He's mentioned it many times, but no one in the media calls him a Mexican hockey player, the best Mexican hockey player in NHL history, or whatever it is. It's always just Austin Matthews. It seems like the media tries to erase that part of him.
Right.
So it's really hard to say.
Yeah, I definitely feel like maybe in the context of hockey, it's probably different, because in hockey, what you're doing is you're playing the sport and you're the person there. It's not really like you're waving like your flag and people know like where you're coming from. Or in art, like it's more prevalent, like you create pictures or imagery that's about you, kind of, or your story. Um, and here you're just contributing your talents of being on the ice, making the score, um, and carrying that pride with you inside, and hopefully, um, being an influence as well, a good influence.
I try to think like if I was some famous hockey player for some crazy reason, I'd be so proud to be like, I'm Salvadorian. I'd be screaming at the top of my lungs because I feel like you don't see many Salvadorian professional players anywhere.
Definitely.
I don't remember if I was telling Jay about this, but I was watching the World Cup and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna root for the US this year because they have a Salvadorian player on the team. Which, when has that ever happened? He didn't get to play, but he was there. But yeah, I don't know. Um, it's it's frustrating because as and maybe it's because I'm brought up differently, where it's very diverse, and it's like I want people to know where my heritage is, like I'm very proud to be Salvadorian. My parents came from this small country and they made a lives for themselves here in this one. And I know that I'm like I white passing for someone who doesn't know any better. So I want people to know I'm not white. I'm actually, of Salvadorian background. Like I just wish more people in hockey were the same.
I mean, but that's also part of what we've talked about with hockey culture, right? They're from a young age, especially if they grow up in like Toronto or Minnesota and things like that. You're started out at a very early age within hockey, and if the way that they ingrain this sort of like you're part of a team, and like if you do something a certain way, if you get a little too like much of a personality, it's like you're not playing for the team type of thing, like things that we've heard countless times in different interpretations. And once that culture starts shifting to allow folks to like, no, you're still part of the team, but you can still bring a certain element of yourself out there. And then now when we've got Jason Robertson, it's just amazing to see. And they played against the Jets or something like that, and one of the media members out in Winnipeg had asked him, "Oh, do you know that Winnipeg has a very huge Filipino community?" And he's like, "Oh, I didn't know that." He's like, he said a few phrases in Tagalog, and it's like that's huge from somebody who is so great at the sport. It's great that he talks about his cultural background so much because they have that platform and it's great to see them using it. But I also sympathize with folks who maybe aren't that great and then they get a little concerned about, maybe they do too many things related to like, let's talk about you, let's talk about your culture and blah blah blah. And like people are, and I know it's like a small subset, and it just gets amplified when we're on Twitter, where I feel like people just bash on the fact that like, oh, they're not that great, maybe you should stop talking about yourself so much and maybe like focus on the sport. So I still feel like we're in that environment where, as much as we hope that other folks will speak out and be more open about their being a representation for their community, I can also understand why maybe their upbringing and maybe where they're at, like it's hard to kind of feel like you have that security to express that part of yourself.
Oh, that's just heavy.
I
Heavy
know,
stuff.
I'm sorry.
Just one big.
Yeah. But it's like, it's that balance where we love this sport, but, we started this platform because it is frustrating that we want to see more of it. We want to, have media members who are people of color being able to have these platforms to bring on folks to talk about themselves because it is so important. And
not just asking the same questions like, oh,
yeah.
how do you feel being the first Black GM in the league? Like, I got hired for a job. What do you want me to say?
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, representation is important. And yeah, I definitely think it encourages people when they see people like themselves.
Do you have any shout outs, maybe anything that you're currently working on, or if it's your opportunity to kind of to amplify your voice?
Well, I just want to say thanks to everyone online, on Twitter, Facebook, that really supported my designs for the New Jersey Devils. I'm glad it resonated with so many people, and it made me really happy. It made me really proud that um, I could connect with you and also make you feel seen and empowered. And that it was just received so well. It made me really happy. Um, and also thanks to everyone that was there in real life as well. Thank you to you two for having me. It was really awesome, and I hope we can talk more. If anyone's interested in seeing more of my design work or artwork, you can take a look on my Instagram at Illkya, Illkya. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much. I appreciate you too.
Thanks for coming on. This was nice.
Thank you.
That concludes our episode for today. I am your host, Jay.
Nessa, thanks for joining us.
And we'll see you on the next episode. Take care.